All right, let's get started. Welcome everyone to Military Flight Bag Admin and Group Account Basics. In this webinar, our Military Customer Success Coordinator, Joey Arena, is going to walk you through some of the benefits of being an administrator of a ForeFlight Military Flight Bag Group account. And these benefits include things like managing your pilots, managing their devices, and making sure that they have up-to-date data and documents, managing Jeppesen charts for your pilots, as well as an even broader range of capabilities that you get with our ForeFlight Dispatch product, which really opens up the possibilities in terms of collaborating between planners and pilots, more advanced flight planning, and just really opening up a deeper level of customization and flexibility in how you manage your group account. So before we get started, I just want to cover a couple of items related to the GoToWebinar platform that we're using for this webinar. You can ask any questions via the GoToWebinar message panel. Just click that button that looks like a question mark inside a speech bubble. You can type your question in the text field at the bottom, hit send, and our staff will be on hand to be responding to your questions via text during the webinar. Please try to submit your questions as soon as you think of them, even though we will be having dedicated Q&A at the end where we will read out some of those questions and respond to them. We do encourage you to submit your questions early because you have a much better chance of having them answered if you do that. We also highly recommend that you join from a computer and not a mobile device. We've just found that mobile devices tend to have more problems with some of our webinars versus joining from a browser on a laptop or desktop computer. Finally, this session is being recorded, and you'll be able to access it starting tomorrow at foreflight.com/webinars, along with all of the other webinars we've recorded over the past couple years. So with that, I'm going to hand it over to Joey to get us going.
Thank you, Sam. As Sam mentioned, I'm Joey Arena, and I am the Military Customer Success Coordinator here at ForeFlight. My primary role with the company is doing training and customer support for all of the military products that we offer here at ForeFlight. Our military team is a very strong team here at ForeFlight, and we have joining us today with the live Q&A, our product analyst, Sarah Kinney. And then again, me, Joey Arena, here hosting and going to do the live Q&A with her as well. Today's webinar, we're going to cover the admin and group account features of ForeFlight. So where this topic comes in is in my primary role as the customer success coordinator for military products, my job is daily teaching users how to manage their account from an admin point of view. Hopefully for the pilots out there attending today, you're pretty comfortable with using ForeFlight's array of products. But today what we're going to do is we're going to discuss our admin features where we're going to be using the user interface from ForeFlight Web. We're going to go through how to manage the users on your account through the organization tab, how to manage device allocation through the organization tab. We're also going to discuss building aircraft profiles and how to manage those profiles. Next, we'll be discussing linking connected Jeppesen accounts inside of ForeFlight and also some device allocation there where the admins do have the ability to control the individual devices that are using those Jeppesen subscriptions. Next, we'll be discussing linking a third-party cloud document source. We support 3 different platforms, and we're going to discuss those platforms and how the integration works between the ForeFlight servers and the individual devices. And then lastly, we're going to do a feature focus on our product ForeFlight Dispatch. This is going to be a very brief overview of the capabilities of ForeFlight Dispatch and how they link with our modern MFB product. And then followed up with live Q&A with Sarah and myself. So let's get started with discussing the admin portal. When we're discussing the user interface, the admin features are all housed on our website at plan.foreflight.com. We do this to allow a centralized location to manage the users and aircraft profiles on group accounts. As you can see in the image here on the screen, the user interface is divided into many different areas. We have ForeFlight Dispatch, which is a standalone program on its own at the very top of the screen when you have a dispatch subscription. The fields below it in orange are ForeFlight on the web. These are the interactions between your iPad, your iPhone, and the web. So this is where those pieces of data are going to sync together as one. And then the areas highlighted in green are your admin support areas. And this is what we're going to be covering today. We're going to start in the organization tab, and we're going to discuss user management and data compliance. When we tap on the left-hand side of the screen and we tap on our organization tab, we'll see the name of our organization at the top. We'll see the total users and device allocation limits also. And then we have two tabs at the lower portion of the top of the screen. We have one tab for users and one tab for devices. The users tab is going to give you a list of both users and administrators on the account, and a list of their names, the devices they have logged in, and when you have compliance enabled, which is an account setting, you will also see if each user has the current data and if their documents are up to date as well. To add a user to the account, you would tap on the Add User button. From here, the prompt will give you the option to add up to 5 users via their email addresses. If you need to add more than 5 users at one time, you can select the CSV option, and it will explain how to format the CSV so that you can add multiple users at one time. Then you'll upload the CSV to the prompt and click the Add button. You will also be prompted if you need to remove a user from your account. That's going to be on the far right-hand side where it's written in red with remove. ForeFlight does not delete any account information, so your account will always live on the ForeFlight servers. All we're doing with this action is taking an active subscription away from you. If you needed to be added to another unit's email, you would then just have that admin add you to their account using the same add user feature, and then your subscription will just be restored. The next thing we're going to discuss is device allocation. So using the other tab at the top of the screen and you select devices, this is going to show you a list of the devices that are logged in. Depending on how your account is set up, some users can use multiple devices under the same login. So this would give you a by device breakdown of the type of device, the email that it's logged in under, the last time that it spoke with the ForeFlight servers, and then the app version, data status, and document status. Now, the great thing about this page is that both data and documents, you can click on them to see their statuses. If you click under the missing docs portion, you can actually pull up the data on my device. It'll tell you the data that I have current and the documents that I'm actually missing due to this download. And then an admin can reach out to me and say, you need to update your documents so that you're in compliance with your flight operations. The next topic we're going to discuss is creating and publishing aircraft profiles. Now, again, all of the admin features are centered on ForeFlight Web. So you need to make sure that you build your aircraft profiles from the web interface. If you build your profiles on your iOS device, you're going to create those and they're your aircraft. They're not going to be able to be shared with other users, such as in the group environment like we're going to be describing today. You need to be an admin to be able to create and to publish these aircraft to the other users. And then when you update a profile on the web, all of those updates will transition to all of the users on the account. By publishing these aircraft, you get a standard configuration for all of the profiles. By publishing these aircraft, it will allow all of the pilots to have one standard configuration in order to flight plan with. Pilots can still copy published aircraft profiles and tailor them to their own specifics. However, using from the group profile, you can publish a standalone profile that everybody can use. That way, everybody's got the right ICAO codes. You've got the standard weights of the aircraft. You've got the correct tailored performance profiles, and everybody's working from the same piece of information. And then all of that information from that aircraft profile is then passed along to your filing documents. This is also where you work with your performance profiles to customize them to the individual tail. The performance that we start with was based from the military's Dash 1s and their performance information. So we did model that directly from the military data that was presented to us. So we're going back to the user interface now. And from the user interface, we're going to tap on the aircraft tab. Now, we can see from this list in the aircraft category, we have My Aircraft and Organization Aircraft. If you fly on the side, let's say you're a flight instructor like I am, and you fly aircraft that the rest of the unit doesn't need to know about, that's where your My Aircraft come in. However, as an admin, you're going to have a section called Organization Aircraft. This is going to be the list of aircraft that you are going to share with all of the users on your account. However, when you create a new profile, you need to click the New Aircraft button and select New Organization Aircraft. That is then going to give you the Publish button at the bottom right-hand corner that will allow this to be published to all of the users on the account. Everything on the aircraft document page that's in blue can be edited. So you can just go through all of the fields, tap anywhere that it's blue, and make the subsequent edits. It's important from an admin's point of view to make sure that this information is complete as possible and accurate so that your pilots can assure that they're using the proper profiles. The next tool we're going to talk about in our admin tools is managing your purchased subscriptions online. Our commerce team has worked hard to make it easy for admins to manage the subscriptions on their account, such as dispatch subscriptions and runway performance subscriptions. For the admins, you will see this new tab at the bottom of the aircraft list that says Manage Aircraft Subscriptions. From this page, you can see everything about your account. You can see the number of tails purchased in dispatch, the number of tails purchased for runway analysis. You can see all of your app subscriptions. And then we have our commerce tool at the bottom of the page. This is where you can allocate your tails. The important piece to note here is that if your unit has purchased, let's say 10 tails, if one of those tails goes down for maintenance or it's rotated out and replaced by another aircraft, you don't have to contact ForeFlight to maintain an active list. You would find the tail number from the list, remove the dispatch license, find the new tail, and then click the Buy button. What this would do is on the right-hand side in the cart, it would give you a zero balance in your total section. This will make sure that you are credited with all of the correct money that is allocated to that account for those tails. Because ForeFlight Dispatch is allocated and purchased on a prorated form, that way it will give you back a credit for the remaining time on the subscription. And then if you add that other tail in at the same day, it will be the same price. So it will get to that zero balance. And then you just complete the checkout and you have reassigned the tail. If you would like to purchase additional tails, you can also look and see the buy buttons and then just click that purchase button and be able to use a credit card if you have one available. If you need to do this through a MIPR or through an invoice, we can contact our sales department and be able to do this for you. Next, we're going to discuss linking and managing the Jeppesen accounts. At the bottom left-hand tab is going to be your account tab. Normally, this is going to show your name, but sometimes it just says account if you don't have a name published. Tapping on the account tab is going to reveal more tabs at the top of the screen. And for this portion, we're going to discuss the Jeppesen tab. From this page, this is where you will log in for the first time and connect a separate Jeppesen account to use with ForeFlight. ForeFlight supports at this time up to 4 different Jeppesen accounts. So you can add more accounts by tapping the Add Jeppesen button. The tip here is that the account information is going to be the same credentials that you use to log into the Jeppesen download manager. So your JDM login credentials are going to be the same for linking your accounts here. Below that is going to be a list of the coverages associated with the accounts that you have linked. It's going to give you the account name, the serial number, the seats that are remaining, and if it's particular to a specific tail number, it will be based there. Now, seats. A seat is an installation credit, meaning that this is per device. So regardless of how many devices a user can use, a seat is going to be per iPad or per iPhone. And then you can also restrict the use of these coverages, if so, by unchecking the Allow Install Radio buttons. You'll then have to click the Save Changes button as well. Below that is the Installed section. The Installed section is going to go over the individual device allocations. It's going to give you the device name and the pilot's account information that's logged into that device. And then it's going to show you the coverage and serial number associated with that device. If you need to deallocate that device and allow another user to use that, you can click the Deactivate button, and that will sign that device out of the Jeppesen coverage. That's very handy if a user doesn't have access to their iOS device and they need access to their JEP coverage, or if a user has left the group and you need to be able to reuse that seat. So that's a great way to use that interface here under the Accounts tab for managing your Jeppesen subscriptions. The next topic we're going to discuss is linking and managing the third-party cloud drives. Starting on the same account tab that we were mentioning where the Jeppesen tab is our integrations tab. The integrations tab is where you're going to manage your account linking with your external cloud drive. Currently, we support the Amazon S3 buckets, Box.com, and Dropbox.com. These three associations will allow you to place data directly from those servers to the devices themselves, directly to the iPad, directly to the iPhone. When you tap on the Manage button, you're going to come in, and for your initial setup, you're going to select your storage provider. In this case, it's going to be Dropbox. So I just select Dropbox. I have to name the catalog. So under the catalog name section, you can name it whatever you'd like to, and then you click the Create button. It's then going to prompt you to connect to either Dropbox, Box, or Amazon for you to put in your credentials to link to the account. Once you have the account correctly linked, you'll see the name of the catalog, and it's still blue, so you can still update this data from this point. But you can then select some sharing options at the bottom if you want the downloads to automatically download to the devices, if you want the users to be able to have print controls or be able to share it further, you can do those restrictions from this point. And we can see on the right-hand side from my screenshot from my iPad that company documents then shows up under My Drives on the Documents section. Managing the data, you would log into your account, such as the Dropbox account here, and you would see a ForeFlight folder, and anything you place in that ForeFlight folder, including other nested folders, would then show up the same way inside of ForeFlight under the Documents tab. With the military utilizing these third-party storage devices, security comes up very often, and the idea of keeping these documents away from non-secure servers. ForeFlight, let's talk about like giant reports. We can see giant reports on the screen right here. Giant reports are FOUO data for official use only. So ForeFlight doesn't have permission to house those on our servers, but you can house those on your own private Dropbox, Box.com, or Amazon S3 account and provide those to your pilots, because ForeFlight does not save any information from your third-party cloud storage solutions. When your iPad wants to download, let's say the giant reports from here, it will ask Dropbox to give that file directly to it, and it bypasses ForeFlight completely. So it's peer-to-peer directly from the Dropbox servers directly to your device. and that keeps your data nice and safe there where it needs to be. Our next topic is going to be our feature focus, talking about our product ForeFlight Dispatch. ForeFlight Dispatch is our comprehensive web planning tool that brings an entire flight crew together on the same page. ForeFlight Dispatch lives on the web, so it's supported by any web browser. You can still access ForeFlight Dispatch from your iOS device by using a web browser, and we suggest Google Chrome in this instance. When you get to ForeFlight Dispatch, you're going to start on our centralized flights list page. This is going to be a list of all of the flights on your account, both flights from individual users' iPads and iPhones and flight plans built here in ForeFlight Dispatch. So you can see all of the flights that pertain to all of your users in one location. The great thing about ForeFlight Dispatch is that you are bringing the flight crew together in real-time planning. ForeFlight Mobile was designed from the PIC's position to plan their own flights, do their own weather briefings for themselves, and file their flight plans. If you shared this information with another pilot, the other pilot would just get a snapshot in time of that flight. If the original pilot did any editing to this flight plan, they would have to reshare the flight plan to the other pilot in order to have the updated information, which could lead to duplicates and confusion. ForeFlight Dispatch, on the other hand, assigns a flight crew to a flight, brings everybody on the same page, and then each update is shared in real time with all of the other flight crew members. To create a new flight, we click on the New Flight button. For military users that use MAFPS or Falcon View or other forms of military planning software, you may have the option to export a file into a CRD format. By tapping the drop-down arrow, you can import that CRD file to build your route string and aircraft allocation. But for the rest of us, you would just click the New Flight button and it would begin your new flight planning page. The new flight planning page is a live flight planning document, meaning everything that you enter on this page at the time you enter it is going to start being calculated in real time. So you would begin by selecting your aircraft, entering your route information, and then choosing alternates, setting up your performance information, and then assigning your flight crew. And you can assign as many pilots as you would like to by the Add Crew button. Once a crew member is added to an account, then from that point forward, every time you save or release a flight plan, each one of those crew members will get updated on their iPads in real time with that information. At the bottom of the page, we're going to see our ForeFlight Advanced Flight Planning engine. Down here, it's going to start off with our recommended routes. The ForeFlight Planning engine will take into account many different factors to come up with this recommended route. It's going to take in factors like turbulence and icing, the aircraft's performance, just many different characters to come in and try to give you the best chance of being cleared as filed along our suggestions. It might not be the fastest time en route, it might not be the lowest fuel burn, but what it is, it's going to give you your best chance of being cleared as filed. However, we still give full access control to route building using our Route Builder tool. Clicking on that button is going to bring you to the Route Builder page. At the top of the page, we bring in our advanced routing constraints. These constraints can be added by topic, such as via and avoid waypoint, via and avoid SIDS and stars. If you're crossing the ocean and you need to use the organized track system, you could do via the track, and it will show you the currently published routes for your time en route. And you can also, we have avoid for boundaries. So if you don't have an overflight permit, you can avoid those, and a couple other constraints in there. Well, just this week, we came up with some more route constraints that come in. So now we can actually do routing by waypoint. So now you can come in and add these adjustments where you can change your altitude. So you can control your step climbs and descents. You can change your cruise profile at a waypoint. Let's say you're going to go to a loiter profile, or you need to go to max endurance for this particular portion. You can then change your performance planning by leg. You can also, for our air tanker crews or those aircraft equipped with air refueling platforms, you can add or remove fuel so that you can interact with the tankers. And ForeFlight Dispatch actually supports full MTR and AR route planning, so you can actually plan to enter those AR tracks around the world as part of your flight planning. And then down at the bottom, you can see we've added new delay and stay functionality, depending on the part of the world where they support either delays or stays. You can now do your setup at the actual waypoint here, so you don't have to worry about the proper syntax to send that to ATC. So once you've built your route, and you always want to manually build your route from the current route section. So once you've entered all of the waypoints and you're ready to go fly, you just click the back button and you're ready to plan the flight. At the top of the screen, when you're ready to start talking about the formatting for how you're going to file, you can click on the ATC data tab. This is going to allow you, and this is where military aviators select the DD-1801 for filing. Both ForeFlight Mobile and ForeFlight Dispatch have full support for DD-1801 filing. So you can select that plan type. If you need to edit the Field 18 remarks section, apply with or to be in compliance with all the GP information that's in your planning documents, you can fill all of your remarks section out right here as well. And then we also support global AFTN custom addressing in ForeFlight Dispatch. So if you need to have file a flight plan with a particular entity and they have an 8-digit alpha code for AFTN addressing, you can file directly with those entities as well. A lot of people ask me throughout these training sessions about personal pilot information, so PPI. They want to make sure that their information is not being shared to ATC at any point. This is also a great place to look at the FPL messaging. ForeFlight does not share pilot information with ATC at any time because the syntax that ATC requests does not have pilot information as one of those fields. So whenever you look at an FPL message, it's going to show you exactly what is sent to ATC. You will not see your name or phone number or email address in this data. So rest assured, you do not have to worry about using your own account in ForeFlight and filing. We don't share your personal information with ATC. Now, that doesn't work out with DD-1801 filing because you have to sign your DD-1801, and I'll show you how to do that here in just a few minutes. The next tab at the top of the screen is our Files and Flights section. This will allow the dispatch user to be able to share files with all of the flight crew. You can drag and drop your information or browse the hard drive from this point, and any file that you add here, PDFs are best supported. So I do suggest using PDFs. Just drop those files here and they will be shared directly to the iOS device of all of the users. Now we're getting ready to release the plan to the flight crew, and this is where the real-time flight sharing capability comes in. At the release button on the bottom of the screen, after you click the save button, you're going to come to this page where you can select either release the flight locked or unlocked. That just depends on if you want the flight crew to be able to edit themselves or if you want it locked and they have to contact a dispatcher in order to update the fields. But once you release the flight, you can see on the right-hand screenshot, a live shot of my iPad when I took the screenshots. And you can see that the flight plan from Edwards to Andrews was shared right there within a few moments with files attached and all of our information right there live on the iPad. If I needed to update any information, I would go back into dispatch, change the time of departure. If I had to change the tail because it went down for maintenance, any information I needed to change, once I click the save button, those edits would show up on the iPad right then, as fast as the internet connection can pass it to each of the individual users. Another great support that ForeFlight has is full Eurocontrol validation. So if you are flying in the complex airspace of Eurocontrol, you can assure that we have live Eurocontrol validation going through those 25,000 plus pages of airway restrictions that they have over there. And we keep that information live inside of the ForeFlight program. Dispatch also has some reporting capability, such as our airspace crossing information. This report will show you the exact crossing times and duration times while you're going through different FIR boundaries and give you distances and crossing points for each one of those boundaries. Another very exciting tool that ForeFlight Dispatch has exclusively is the custom creation of nav logs. An admin can come into the program and use the navlog builder to better build a navlog that more aligns with their SOPs. It's basically like playing with Tetris. You just move the boxes around, you can resize them, you can add blocks, you can take away blocks, you can change styling, you can add pictures, you can add custom notes sections and build your navlog exactly the way you want it. And then when you build your briefing inside of ForeFlight Dispatch, that custom nav log will be the one that's passed off to each of the crew members. And then we're going to talk about electronic filing with the DD-1801. So once you click the file button and you have selected the DD-1801 as one of those options, this window is going to come up. Now, the next field down, we can see that it gives us some options to either notify base ops and file or notify base ops alone. If base ops handles all of your flight plan filing, or if you're going on a VFR flight and you just need to notify base ops to leave, you can just notify them, put in their email address, and only a copy of the DD-1801 will be sent to them. If you need to file as well, base ops will get the PDF version of the DD-1801, and then ATC will also have an electronic filing of that information. You do have a place for a digital signature here to sign your DD-1801. This is where you would put your actual name in. But again, this document is not given to ATC when you file. Only that computer syntax is sent for electronic filing. However, the digital signature will be placed on the DD-1801 for you to use. And then on the right-hand side, you have the print and share features so that you can print a copy or email or text message or airdrop a copy of this to anybody in your local area. And you just click the sign and file button and you're ready to file that flight plan. And this was such a brief overview because ForeFlight Dispatch is our most powerful planning tool that we have. There's so much more, and we have many other webinars that go in depth into using ForeFlight Dispatch. So please, to learn more about this feature, I suggest that you go to foreflight.com/product/dispatch and take a look at everything else we have to offer in ForeFlight Dispatch. So now it's going to be time for Q&A with me and Sarah. And we're going to review some of the questions that you've submitted up to this point and give you those answers right now.
Hello, everyone. Sarah here. As Joey mentioned, I am the military product analyst. So we got several good questions here. I'll go ahead and kick them off. The first person here that asked a question is wondering why some of their aircraft don't seem to be populating to individual EFBs. They say that they have a master account with aircraft and 2 daughter accounts. And they're wondering what could be the reason that those aircraft that they've configured don't push further. So Joey, do you want to weigh in on the headlines for what's required to have those aircraft pass on to child accounts?
Absolutely. So this is a common occurrence, and that's why in the video today we went over the specifics between my aircraft and organization aircraft. Now, some accounts actually have an older style of setup inside of our ForeFlight servers. Those are what we call legacy accounts. So if you don't see the option to see my aircraft or organization aircraft, that means you're on a legacy account. You can reach out to us at mfbsuccess@foreflight.com. I can take a look at that with you and we can look at the specifics of what's going on. But most of the time when you see this it's because somebody created an aircraft and it published as a my aircraft instead of an organization aircraft. That's why the publish button won't show up then at the bottom of the screen. So we always want to make sure that for group accounts that you're building your aircraft profiles at the plan.foreflight.com website and then publishing those profiles so that all of the group members can have access to the same profile. And let's look down the list. And the next question that I see here is custom content uploaded and such as nav points and custom charts? And is it possible for an administrator to be able to distribute that information? And the quick answer is yes. We discussed here in the video about using the third-party cloud storage drives. Now, those storage drives have a great hidden capability. We can create a file called content pack. It needs to be one word and it needs to all be lowercase. But when you build that content pack folder and you nest it on that third-party cloud storage drive, anytime you build a content pack, and content packs are essentially a group of multiple files that you can build. They're customizable. They can be base maps, they can be map overlays, they can be custom plates. The sky's the limit. It's just whatever you need it to be, you can build it yourself and be able to implement it inside of ForeFlight. But once you have one of those content packs and you place it inside of that nested folder, it's going to automatically be pushed to your entire organization. So then when the users log into ForeFlight, they will see a download available. They download that to their custom content, and then all of the pilots have that content available for their missions.
So we had someone write in and ask a question about what the timeline looks like if you have a large organizational account, it has several sub-orgs, and if you remove one user from that sub-organization, you remove their device, is that license instantly available? What kind of timeline does it look like for that license to be opened up?
Absolutely. So these licenses, a license is handled by logging into an account for the most part. So as each individual user, you should have your own login information, and the devices normally are what takes up a license. So an iPad and an iPhone each take up a license according to the allocation on the account. As a user signs out of that device, or an admin logs a user out under the organization tab, then those licenses should be available immediately on the account. This is very important for users that have a lower number of licenses and they have multiple pilots. As new pilots transition in, maybe the old pilot hasn't been removed yet. So it's very easily for the admin to log in, log the old pilot out of their device, and that new pilot should be able to then almost instantaneously sign in, log in with their device, and be able to utilize that license. Now, as far as moving users from one suborg to another, the admins should have full control of that on their web portal and be able to move users across sub-organizations. And then if you're transitioning from one unit to another, you want the previous admin to have removed you from that account so that the new admin can easily just click the add user button, put your existing email account in there, and all of your data magically appears on the new account.
Joey, the person who asked this question said that they had sometimes experienced a too many devices notification. There are instances where, sometimes the system can come confused. It has something that we call a ghost device. So if you ever experience that, definitely reach out to Joey at MFB Success at ForeFlight.com, and we can certainly help look behind the scenes at your specific account and try to figure out what may be causing issues for you. I will move on to another question that we had. Someone was asking, are app settings with MDM payload possible? This is something that's commonly referred to as app config. It's not something that we support at this time, but it is something that is on our roadmap. We recognize kind of the importance of being able to preload and configure as an administrator all of the same settings for your users across the board there. So it's certainly something that we've heard before and we hope to bring in the future for you, but do know that it's on our roadmap.
Thank you for that, Sarah.
Yeah, browsing to see if there's other outstanding questions. I do have one more here from a user who said, for the Jeppesen connection, we have some pilots who can't download the new publications after they expire. Any solution to this? And Joey, do you have recommendations for troubleshooting that?
I do, and this is something that we give in our power users course. A lot of times the ForeFlight downloads, sometimes they just get an internet connection issue right when they're looking at a file and they don't prompt to download immediately, or the user doesn't have automatic downloads selected in their settings. I say it's a good rule of thumb that every couple weeks that every pilot open ForeFlight, tap on the More button at the bottom right-hand corner and go to their download section. At the top of the download section, you're going to see a red delete button. When you click that delete button, it gives you two options, but I want you to click delete expired. When you do that, ForeFlight's going to remove all of the expired information off of your off of your device. And then it's also going to, at that moment, query our servers to see if there's new information available for download. And that should, within about 10 seconds, prompt a new download prompt so that you can ensure that you have your most up-to-date information, including those Jeppesen plates. Now, outside of that, if you sign out of your account for any reason, then you're going to lose access to the Jeppesen data that is going to be updated. So you do need to also go to More Jeppesen, which is a Jeppesen tab that's nested inside of ForeFlight, and make sure that you have the appropriate coverage installed on your device. If in green letters you see install a coverage as an option, that means that you do need to sign in or just click the install button and select the coverage that you need downloaded to your device. In some instances, you can have old Jeppesen charts and not even realize that you're not getting updates because you're not signed in. So you do need to periodically also check More Jeppesen and make sure you have the appropriate coverage installed on your device.
Awesome. Thank you, Joey. We did receive a couple other questions that were kind of tailored to individual experiences. So we have replied privately to those questions. If you think of something after this that you'd like to ask us, as mentioned, please definitely send us an email to our support channel. Joey monitors that himself, as well as our 24/7 support team. So we're more than happy to assist in any way that you might need our help. So with that, we can go ahead and wrap up. Thank you, Joey, so much for your efforts on this presentation. And thank you to everyone who joined us.
All right, thank you, everyone. Have a nice afternoon.